In the deepest folds of the universe, where stars are born and die in silence, a race older than time itself began to stir. Long before humanity etched its first crude mark on a cave wall, before Earth had even cooled from its chaotic birth, there existed a force of nature so primal and terrible that it could not be contained by civilization, reason, or morality. The xenomorph, known in human tongues as the perfect organism, was not the product of evolution alone. It was a weapon, a biological masterpiece, engineered for survival at the cost of everything else. The engineers, a race of godlike beings with a mastery of genetic manipulation, were the architects. Their reasons remain cloaked in mystery. Some believe the engineers intended the xenomorph as a tool of purification, a biological reset to cleanse planets of unwanted creations. Others argue that the creature was an experiment gone awry, a living testament to the dangers of unchecked ambition. Regardless of intent, the result was something horrifyingly effective. On a primordial world bathed in volcanic fire and churning oceans, the first embryonic forms of the xenomorph came into existence. Unlike the later iterations that humanity would encounter, these early prototypes were unstable, mutating rapidly and dying almost as fast. But in the ruins of their failures, perfection was slowly being forged. The black, chitinous exoskeleton, the acidic blood, the secondary inner jaw designed for killing with surgical precision. All of it came together piece by terrible piece. The engineers unleashed their creation across barren planets, testing its capabilities against the deadliest environments the galaxy had to offer. Toxic atmospheres, crushing gravities, extreme temperatures. The xenomorph endured them all, adapting, surviving, and evolving. It was not long before the creature's true potential was recognized. The xenomorph did not simply kill. It assimilated. Its life cycle was grotesque yet brilliant. Implantation through a parasitic facehugger, gestation within a living host, and violent birth resulting in a creature that bore traits of the host species. It was evolution accelerated 1,000-fold. A nightmare made flesh. But the engineers' hubris would be their undoing. On a remote outpost, now long forgotten and buried under millennia of dust and silence, the xenomorphs turned on their creators. What began as a controlled experiment became a massacre. The engineers, despite their technological supremacy, were no match for the tide of black, writhing death they had unleashed. Their cities crumbled. Their ships fell silent. Across the stars, the memory of the xenomorph was buried, the knowledge deemed too dangerous to preserve. Eons passed. Stars lived and died. Civilizations rose and fell. And in the void between, the xenomorphs waited, hibernating in derelict structures, frozen in abandoned laboratories, lying dormant in egg-like capsules that pulsed faintly with malevolent life. It was inevitable that someone, somewhere, would stumble upon them. Humanity, bold and naive, was that someone. When the crew of the Nostromo responded to a distress signal from the desolate planetoid LV-426, they could not have known they were stepping into the jaws of ancient terror. The signal was not a call for help but a warning, a desperate cry to stay away. Yet curiosity and corporate greed proved too strong. When Kane leaned over the leathery, organic pod and the facehugger sprang onto him, history pivoted once more towards darkness. The xenomorph that emerged aboard the Nostromo was unlike anything humanity had encountered. Swift, cunning, relentless, it picked off the crew one by one, turning their industrial vessel into a tomb. Ripley, the sole survivor, managed to escape, but the encounter was only the beginning. Corporations like Weyland-Yutani saw the xenomorph not as a threat, but as an opportunity. They envisioned bioweapons, genetic breakthroughs, the possibility of taming death itself. Their reckless pursuit led to numerous missions, colonies, and entire scientific expeditions devoted to capturing and studying the organism. Each attempt ended in tragedy. Each failure fed the mythos surrounding the creature. Over time, different strains and subspecies of the xenomorph began to appear, each adapted to their environment or the nature of their host. There were aquatic variants with elongated, fin-like limbs, desert breeds capable of blending perfectly into sand-swept landscapes, and even hive-minded queens capable of commanding legions of drones. The xenomorph's evolution was not just biological. It was strategic. They adapted not just to survive, but to dominate. One infamous chapter involved the human-colonized world of Fiorina Fury 161, a barren prison planet where a single xenomorph, born from a canine host, tore through hardened inmates and staff alike. Its form was sleeker, faster, and more feral, a terrifying example of how the creature could evolve based on its gestational template. Meanwhile, clandestine groups continued their experiments. Some even tried splicing human DNA with xenomorph traits, seeking to create hybrids that could be controlled. The results were invariably monstrous and short-lived, often breaking free and turning on their creators with predictable savagery. Each attempt to harness the xenomorph ended with blood, screams, and silence. The Earth itself was not spared. In the far future, during the collapse of human civilization under environmental and political strain, xenomorph outbreaks became more common. Entire cities fell in hours, their populations transformed into seething hives. Survivalists whispered of black nightmares moving through ruined streets, dragging victims into the dark to serve as hosts. Some factions began worshipping the xenomorphs, seeing them as divine instruments of nature's wrath. Cults sprang up, venerating the creatures as angels of purification, ushering humanity towards a brutal rebirth. These cultists willingly sacrificed themselves, allowing facehuggers to implant them, believing that to become a vessel for such perfection was the highest honor. As technology advanced, so too did humanity's methods of fighting back. Armored colonial marines equipped with pulse rifles, smart guns, and flamethrowers waged desperate battles against the xenomorphs on countless worlds. Some battles were won, but many were lost. Even when a hive was eradicated, the cost in lives was staggering. And the knowledge that somewhere, hidden deep in space or buried under the ruins of ancient worlds, other hives awaited, gnawed at the collective human psyche. In some rare cases, scientists discovered that certain worlds contained dormant engineer installations, complete with xenomorph eggs and ancient warnings etched into walls. These grim relics told stories of entire solar systems consumed by the organism, of empires laid low in the span of days. The xenomorph was not merely a monster. It was an extinction-level event. As centuries passed, the xenomorphs themselves continued to evolve. Reports surfaced of king xenomorphs, colossal creatures larger than even the queen, capable of commanding entire swarms with a psychic link. Others spoke of shape-shifting variants that could mimic human form to infiltrate and sabotage before revealing their true nature. Each new evolution pushed humanity closer to the brink. In the latest encounters, some scientists speculated that the xenomorphs were not merely reacting to environmental stimuli, but were actively directing their evolution. Hive patterns began to show signs of complex planning, of strategic construction designed to trap and funnel prey. Some hives grew so large that they reshaped entire landscapes into nightmarish ecosystems centered around the queen. Despite humanity's best efforts, it became increasingly clear that total eradication was impossible. The xenomorphs were not just a threat. They were an inevitable consequence of intelligent life pushing too far, reaching too greedily into the mysteries of creation. They were the universe's way of maintaining balance, a brutal reminder that some knowledge is better left untouched. And so, the xenomorphs endure. On distant moons, in forgotten ships adrift among the stars, in the darkened alleys of fallen cities, they wait. Their story, from ancient origins to modern terror, is not one of defeat, but of patient, inexorable dominance. They are not merely creatures. They are the dark mirror held up to all life, reflecting the cost of ambition, hubris, and the primal, eternal struggle for survival. In the end, it is not a question of if the xenomorphs will rise again. It is only a matter of when.